The preparation of the preliminary examination is both challenging as well as enjoyable, easy and difficult, imposing as well as grounded, stressful as well as smooth, and a learning experience as well as an insipid labor. Thus, it is a base forming exercise and at the same time acts as the hurdle, or better said, the students themselves create self-inflicted hurdles inadvertently, unknowingly, or being a part of a herd mentality. There are two challenges. One that the students encounter during preparation and another while taking the examination. There are indeed some challenges during preparation or certain things that can go wrong with the PT preparation. Perhaps driven by insecurity or peer group pressure or hearsay, the students read too much into what is going to be asked in the civil services examination. Thus, for every year, there is a new trend as defined by the people who go on to be determining the trend of the market. Incidentally, the place where the UPSC prepared should be ideally called as a campus, not as a market. However, this is what exactly the case is. UPSC is not ignorant to all of those aspects. And UPSC does go on to give very clear logical indication to what a trend exists. But then this is a trend that must be deciphered. This is a trend that is not deciphered by the people who go on to be speculating. The student can, however, decipher a theme rather than any type of a trend. For example, good number of questions are application and observation based, and if that is the trend, let it be. The conclusion is that the chapter must be read very carefully, following how application based information can be grasped thoroughly or the learning can be applied. The second challenge is following a non-customized and a general approach to the preparation. Now, imagine there is something that I read and C. Uday Bhaskar also reads. They will not be similarly grasped. The grasping power of both of them will be different. The interpretation will be different. And the level at which the topic can be analyzed is also going to be different. Imagine if there is something that I come to know about a facet of Indian economy and the RBI governor also comes across. They will not be similarly interpreted. Imagine an article read by a highly intelligent INTN and at the same time by a highly analytical student from history with an excellent command over language. Will the cognitive ability be the same? The answer is no. Imagine if a missile technology control regime article is read by both a beginner and someone who has appeared in the examination twice. Will both have a similarity of understanding? The answer is no. Imagine a candidate already well prepared for the examination, having attempted the examination twice or thrice and having read all essential books, finds a Xerox material in not so good shape. Even then, he or she will be able to utilize it as much or much better than any general candidate. This is largely because the candidate will now be in a position to understand what was missing in the previous text and what is new completely to the Xerox material. An insipid Xerox material will not be able to evince so much amount, it will not be able to invite so much amount of interest from a newcomer. And an insipid Xerox material will put him off for test, while the same piece of paper will keep getting appreciation for only one point that may not have been a part of the previous reading of that candidate. There is another handle to it. Any student who is a beginner having taken a plunge into the civil services examination has to allow himself, herself to be handled very carefully and sensitively. It is very essential that the new entrant keeps himself or herself happy very buoyant, very interested in study, because that will be the only thing which will make his studies sustainable for the arduous years that are to come by. Thus, he or she must read books that will get the candidate interested in his studies and learning. At this moment, colorful books, easy reading and conceptualization, happy feelings, congenial environment, everything counts. And mind it, everything counts. Anything that puts the candidates into confusion or stress, anything that contradicts his perception and ill-founded reality, puts the candidate off the track. The new entrant, ready to imitate their seniors, do not understand how carefully they themselves have to handle. Effectively, their senior peer groups are not mature and sensitive enough to understand the faith with which their junior peer group tries to emulate them. No one will be wrong, but something may go wrong to spoil an entire life, possibly, or an entire year, possibly. Thus, the students have to realize what is good for others may not be good for them. What is good for a qualified candidate may not be good for a beginner. What is good for an intelligent student may not be good for a mediocre student. What is good for a hard-working student will not be good for a sharp but casual student. The reality is that every type of student is standing to qualify for this examination, depending on whether they are going to customize their efforts to the requirements of their personality, as well as in tune with the type of requirements that the UPSC demands. What to study, how to study, and which way to study, all aspects are very different for different students, and this must be realized and taken into account. The moment the student starts imitating preparation, they start following a herd mentality. Learning stops there and then. No doubt, there are some books that are popular. No doubt, there are some books that are very well compiled. No doubt, they are well structured. No doubt, once or twice some questions have been asked from them. No doubt, they have been marketed very well. This does not mean that there are no other good books. For example, there are a couple of books that are much better in content, presentation and language than the NCERTs, but they have not been marketed well. Consequently, the students do not know much about them. If the students find answer to a question on volcanism in NCERT, they will be able to find it even in a Maharashtra school textbook, even in a Tamil Nadu school textbook, even in Eastern Economy edition series, or even in short smart study. What the students require to do is once in a while explore the bookshops and the market and the stall of the bookshops. Students must also remember that they rarely will, if they are referred a good book by their coaching centers, because for every good book that will be recommended, the coaches of those centers will have to study these books, which in most cases they may not be willing to. And also, by recommending some authors, they will be promoting them who can become a perceived threat to themselves. Most of the coaches bank on mediocrity and are not willing to recommend anything new, and consequently, they will not be recommended. Anything that will be better than their classes and class notes will also not be recommended. Now, this does not apply to teachers who are willing to explore new heights, new goals, and new intellect, new knowledge as well. They keep on recommending something new, but then these students are not in a position to classify and identify the difference between a teacher and a coach. This also sometimes applies to students who are not very good at appreciating anything novel. And thus, the same books, the same conventional material keeps going on and on. The UPSC always experiments, and this is lost sight of generally by a candidate who is a new entrant to the examination system. The fourth challenge that the students go on to face is a robotic-like preparation without any investment of thinking in innovativeness of preparation or even thinking. Students hardly give time to themselves, hardly invest thinking in themselves, hardly bake the cauldron among themselves. The preparation of the candidates has become very mechanical, that is, either based on imitating seniors or a frantic preparation comprising classes in one coaching center after another, one test series after another, and one website after another, thus look like running from pillar to post and from post to pillar. Sometimes a small break from the mundane routine helps the candidates to recapitulate, identify their limitations and strengths, hone them up, polish them up, rethink their preparation strategy, and start redirecting themselves based on their self-realization. Following disciplined preparation is good, but for every candidate, there are different types of disciplines. Some students work like a mule, some are intellectuals, some have lots of spark, some study least when unorganized, and so on. The idea is to identify one's strength, move ahead. Identify one's weakness, hide it, camouflage it, or overcome it. The fifth challenge refers to the preference to study-only mechanism for preparation rather than learning as a model of preparation. Let's accept it. The syllabus of UPSC is so large and with so many topics that it is not possible to know about every topic intensively through studies only. The problem with the study-only mechanism of preparation is that it requires an enormous amount of effort of preparation, makes the studies mundane and insipid, prevents the candidates from looking beyond their blinkers, and traps their information and prevents it from blooming into knowledge. Learning allows the candidates to expand their horizons of observation, breaks the shackles imposed on them by conventional learning system of Indian education system. Had the questions asked in PT would have been fact-based, a study-based approach would have been helpful. But because the questions are also observation, analysis and current affairs based, merely studying is not always going to be helpful. Learning has to be enhanced, augmented and reinvented in order to ease effort of preparation. Following a herd mentality, following a bandwagon effect, and taking a decision without any recourse to their logic. The greatest harm the students do to themselves is by following a herd mentality. Herd mentality means blindly following the advice of peers, coaching institutes, etc., rather than applying their own logic. Herd mentality means coming under the influence of everyone without giving a thought to it as to why they are coming. Herd mentality implies a bandwagon effect, that is, following rumors and strengthening it, then repropagating it. This implies following some preparation strategies that have been imitated, not imbibed, not proven, not practiced, not successful. This also implies giving ears to anyone. This implies deriving a meaning out of nothing. This implies anything that is not worthy of being followed by a leader but by masses. Herd mentality is harmful because every student is different. His preparation is different. Talent endowment is different. Upbringing and schoolings are different. Perspectives and perceptions are different. Thus, no two students are alike. No two students have the same talent endowment, and every student is exceptional, every student is extraordinary, every student is capable of doing something in the world that no one has done. And let's accept this fact, no two students can prepare in the same manner in the examination. For every student, a preparation strategy has to be customized and which must be based on individual strength rather than based on imitation. Students who imitate others' strategy rarely qualify. The reason students get affected by herd mentality seems to be their insecurity, their concern about their career, their inability to try to know the truth logically as they are in a frantic pace to spruce up their career or to logic out their decisions because everything around them seems to be moving so fast. And above all, the influence of the peer group, which itself is looking for security, solutions, and sustainability. The greatest danger that the students face being a part of herd mentality is that they transform themselves into consumers from being students. It's not their fault that they get treated like objects and like consumers. Once out of purview of students category, they become easy prey to the lure of some tuition centers masquerading as education institutes who behave more like traders and who flaunt whatever they can to attract consumers. And as it is said, anything and everything is fair in love, war, and marketing. The other big impact that the students start following rumors is that the rumors can be of any type, ranging from a teacher's aura to a SEO-generated internet marketing, that is, search engine optimization generated internet marketing, which places any institute or any individual onto the top, to even planted rumors by some of the institutes and property dealers or by any group inimical to the career interests of the students. The rumors generally belong to several categories: about the best teacher of the subject or the worst teacher of the subject, about the best book on the topic and the worst book on the topic, about the best institute, about certain changes in UPSC which will not be corrected and that will benefit someone, and to create doubt in the innocent, insecure minds of the poor students so that they do not decide correctly. And most importantly, a negative propaganda about someone which is easy to plant among gullible students and which ostensibly has the potential of giving indirect benefit to anyone. And another rumor after year after year, sometimes a book from where one question has been asked to one trend to a teacher's influence to whatnot, the student's decision-making ability suffers because of some inherent doubts that have been sown in the minds of the student. In this process, the only loser is the poor, innocent, and a talented student who follows everything religiously, wrong or right. So, the poor student behaves the way the rumor planters want the students to behave. The poor students decide what the rumor planters want him to decide. Incidentally, the students may not realize that, but nothing seems to be in the hands of the students, not even their decisions. Students cannot qualify for an examination that requires a leader, while they themselves behave like common masses and have all the traits of masses and herds. This is sad, but it's correct. The seventh challenge is being apathetic towards their own mistakes. Students do commit various mistakes and keep repeating them. These mistakes include: one is plunging in the preparation without having revisited school books and not revising entire of whatever they have been learning up till present. Without this effort, there is no way one can prepare for the preliminary examination, or even if one qualifies incidentally or accidentally, they can never prepare for the mains examination effectively. The second problem students going to create is, and they are apathetic towards, is skipping newspapers and magazines that spread awareness, and these students think that their coaching institutes will go on to take care of it, and even a third grade guidebook will also go on to take care of it. Another apathy is towards their own ability or inability to organize their thinking in the form of notes. That is, they are not able to structure and organize their own thinking and putting it on paper, that is, making notes. And still another apathetic attitude is towards not practicing enough amount of multiple choice questions, and that too genuine type of questions. Other than that, there are some challenges that the students do go on to face during the examination. The biggest challenge during the examination is avoiding negative marks. In the exam, the greatest impediment to success in prelims is the negative marking. This is because if you think that you have marked a right answer and it turns out to be wrong, then you are penalized to an extent of 2.67 marks of your expected score. If anyone marks 5, 6, 7 such wrong answers, then the loss becomes very difficult to mitigate, particularly if your attempt is very close to the cutoff. Thus, one has to strategize for minimal negative marking. In actual terms, negative marking cannot be prevented, but it can be minimized. Negative marking can be avoided in two ways. The first and foremost is having adequate revision of whatever one has studied. It matters less to have studied widely, but it matters more having studied intensively, so as to have an absolute command over the topic that is being studied. This means that having studied 70 to 80% of the syllabus may not mean too much, but an adequate revision will pay better dividends. Students having intensive coverage with revision have better chances to qualify than the one who have covered 100% with little or no revision. The second is the type of mistake one makes in the examination hall, and this mistake is different for different individuals. Some people are careless while reading questions and options, while some are careless while darkening the answer on the OMR sheet. There are many who go for wild guesses, and there are many who are prejudiced with respect to the questions asked because of haste in the examination hall. Remember, all these tendencies are very fatal. To have a guard against this, one needs to be practicing regularly to gain confidence, to overpower their limitations, and practice text papers sufficiently to be able to identify the problem. Obviously, they have to be cautious about this to prevent recurrence of some mistakes, such type of mistakes in the examination hall. The third aspect which allows the candidates to commit mistakes is, and it's never thought of, never discussed, never introspected given its sensitive nature, and that is related to the negative mindset and judgmental attitude of the student, which actually prompts them to commit mistakes. It is difficult for the students to introspect whether they have a negative mindset or not, but the students must be flexible enough to acknowledge their shortcomings, allow others to point to some mistakes, and be open to other perspectives other than theirs. Believe it or not, this does create a fatal situation. Normally, the students do not take note of things that can go on to go wrong. But if they take civil services preliminary examination would be a safe journey of learning and preparation, as well as for qualification in any other examination as well. Having talked about it, there are going to be the students must be aware of some exam hall challenges as well. For example, one of the challenges that the students can go to face going to the examination hall is that they go to examination with the preconceived notion of the number of questions that has to be attempted. Such preconceived notion pressurizes the candidates to attempt a certain number of questions which they have thought of themselves for attempting. Under such a pressure that have been unnecessarily created, the students commit many mistakes, and where one question can be a deciding factor, this really proves fatal. It's prudent to attempt as many as one can, make informed guesses, use the elimination method, mark where you are able to eliminate two options. The second of this exam hall problem that they create for themselves is, and that happens and that the students must go on to know is, some students do speculate cutoff in the exam hall itself. The student's task is effectively to maximize his or her score. A speculation in this case is a sign of weakness. The third is, some undue haste allows the students to commit mistakes in darkening the circles. The students must space themselves or keep ample time for that purpose. The best way for the candidate in this case is, taking all the scenarios into account, is to maintain calm and composure in the examination hall, mark the answers known to him, and then go through the questions he does not know or try to solve them logically and based on the elimination method. Making a wild guess, of course, is a big no.